Hey YouTube, welcome to another video. In this episode, I will be changing and creating a management network. A management network is a VLAN used for managing network devices like routers, switches, and access points. Oftentimes, you will see me using the default system VLAN 1 as the management VLAN because this is the simplest and easiest thing to do and it works really well in the Umada environment. But for those who would like to separate the network device administration traffic and user data traffic, a dedicated VLAN other than VLAN 1 is highly recommended. Because of this, management VLAN can also increase the security of the network. In this version of NewGen LAN, I will show how to create and implement a dedicated management VLAN to manage all Umada devices. By the way, System VLAN 1 is perfectly fine to use as a management VLAN. Also, before you jump into this, I would like to share a word of warning. Since by default and by manufacturer design, the controller and gateway are managed in the default System VLAN 1. Any changes to it can have devastating effect in your network. Failing any step in this procedure may result in breaking your network and may result to a full network meltdown. So only attempt this if you feel you have the necessary backup for your network, or you are very comfortable with the MADA, or you're just playing around in your lab, or you are really good with networking and its concepts. But before we continue, I just wanted to ask for your support. If you find this video helpful, or you learn something new, or just want to support me, please like and subscribe to my channel. This content is another first for Umada in YouTube, and you watch this concept first in this channel. So this is the current lab setup. One thing that I would like to focus discussing here is that my media PC, my admin PC or my management PC is currently connected to a port expander. This port expander is a TP-Link SG105 and this one is directly connected to the ER605. In the past, I always have my management PC or my media PC directly connected to the controller. But because this video will involve moving the controller from one network to another, I decided to connect my media PC to a port expander just to make it easier for demonstration and testing in the video. So in this network, you will see that I still have the system VLAN. The system VLAN is currently my management VLAN. And this is what we're going to change. I have 192.168.0 for the system VLAN or default VLAN network, and the controller is using 192.168.0.100 as its IP address. The gateway is 192.168.0.1. The access point is 192.168.0.110. And for the switches, I actually have two in here. That's why I have an X2 in here. And I have IP addresses .101 and .102. So this diagram represents the end goal of this video. In this diagram, I have shown the addition of the management VLAN network, which is 192.168.100 network. All network devices will have an IP address based on that network. The controller will have 192.168.100.100. For the access point, it will have a 192.168.100.110 IP address. And for the remaining two switches, I will still have the 101 and .102. But I will also demonstrate how to adapt a new switch, and that's the reason why I have another IP address in here which shows 192.168.100.103. It's going to be a different switch, an SG2008. Also in this diagram, you will notice that the OC300 is the only device that has a management VLAN as a PVID, and that is because all the network devices will be connected via a trunk port. This trunk port will always have the management VLAN so that all of these devices will be able to connect to the controller for management. So these are my devices. This is my gateway, ER605. This is my controller, OC300. And I have two access switches, SG2210 and 3. I also have one access point, which is an EAP235 wall access point. This one is a TP-Link SG105. This is unmanaged switch. It doesn't support VLAN, but it also doesn't strip out VLAN. So in essence, this one port is expanded into 4 additional ports. The uplink to the OC300 controller is through this black cable in here using that LAN port. The switches are connected to the other LAN ports, and the port expander is connected to another LAN port. So all of the ports on the ER605 are currently in use, and this is the reason why I needed a port expander. Okay, so before starting, let's do all the prerequisites first. The first prerequisite is to have a network diagram. I already know the IP addresses of my controller and all their planned IP addresses in the future. The next prerequisite will be to have Umada Discovery Utility. For Umada Discovery Utility, I'm going to use version 5.1.1. There is a latest version, which is version 5.2.1. However, I am not able to launch this version properly. So in this video, I'm going to use the older version, which is version 5.1.1. And next prerequisites that I have will be to set your controller's IP either via DHCP, static, or fallback IP. In this video, I'm going to set a fallback IP. So click global, and then under settings and then controller settings, I'm going to maintain DHCP because it will allow me to do troubleshooting and demonstration. I'm going to do 192.168.100.100 as my fallback IP. This is in case I don't get any IP from a DHCP server. I'm going to click save. And the last prerequisite will be to make sure that you know the admin account of your devices. So go to settings, site settings, scroll down a little bit, and this will be your device admin account. So I have taken care of all my prerequisites, meaning I can now start configuring my management VLAN. So now I'm going to create the management VLAN. So settings, and then LAN, and then I'm going to click create new LAN. I am going to call it 100-management. The purpose will be interface, and I'm going to select all the gateway interfaces. 100 under VLAN ID, and for the gateway subnet, this is going to be a 192.168.100 network. Update DHCP, and I want to start the DHCP range from .100, and I'll click save. So that's the very first step. The next one will be to update DHCP option 138. That process will help new devices discover the Umada in its new IP address. So let me do that. I click edit on the default system VLAN. I went to advanced DHCP options, and under option 138, I'm going to add the planned IP address of the controller. So this controller is not yet up in this particular IP address. That's okay. I'm just saving it. And I'm going to do the same for the management VLAN. Now that the management VLAN is created, I also like to create a DHCP reservation for my controller based on this new VLAN. If I haven't created it, I will not be able to do the DHCP reservation. Click clients, and in here you can see I have 3 clients. This is my admin PC, my media PC, the one I'm using for recording and demonstration. And this is my OC300. This is my controller. So I'm going to click this, click config, click use fixed IP address. You will see here under network, I will select the new management VLAN that I have created, and I'm going to enter the IP address, and I'll click apply. The next step is very crucial because this time you're going to configure your network devices. So devices, and as is usual for my videos, I always configure my devices, especially if it's going to affect multiple devices, based on how far they are relative to the gateway. So the access point is the farthest device from the gateway, so the access point will be the one that I'm going to configure first. Also, the access point configuration is a little bit different versus the switch, so make sure to watch both the configuration for the access point and the configuration for the access switch. And I'm going to click the access point, go to config, go to IP settings, and go to the network, select the management VLAN that we just created, and I'll select this one as well, IP address 192.168.100.100. For the fallback IP, the same thing, I'm going to update that one, and for the fallback gateway, I'll just update it, and I'll click apply. So I'll click got it to confirm. So after setting the IP settings, I need to go to services, and here under VLAN management, I need to click custom, and then I need to select management in here, and I'll click apply. Click got it and confirm. This completes the configuration of the access point. Now I'm going to move on to the switch. I'll click one of the switch here, which is AS01-SG2210FP. I'll click config. and I'll click VLAN interface, and you can see the management VLAN in here. All I have to do is click edit, and then you can see here the management VLAN. I need to click enable here. So I'm going to select here the fallback IP and use fixed IP address configuration as well. Management 100, I'm going to select 101 in here, and for the fallback IP I'll configure it this way, similar, and the fallback gateway will be 192.168.100.1, and I'll click apply. Got it. Confirm. It says succeeded. So now I'm going to move on to the final switch. Click here, click config. I'll do the similar thing. I'll click apply, click confirm. My switches and access point are now configured. I want to make sure everything has transitioned properly, so I'm just waiting for the dashboard to refresh. So let me hide this and click refresh. So the AS01, which is the first switch we configured, it didn't take the IP address that we set as a fallback IP, but that's okay. As long as it's on the new VLAN and it can see the controller, that is fine. For the access point, it has already reflected the new IP. There you go, it's connected. This switch accepted the IP address that I have assigned for this, which is 192.168.100.102. Now that we have configured these network devices to the new VLAN, I need to configure an access port for the controller, because the controller is like a PC. It needs to be connected to an access port. So I selected switch 1 and then I click ports, and I'm going to change this to management. There you go. I set the port 2 to management VLAN. So now that we have a port configured as an access port, we can start moving the controller to the management VLAN. I will do a live cut over. I'm going to do dual ping. So ping 192.168.0.100 minus T. This one will ping the new IP address for the controller. This will let me know whether my controller has taken hold of the new IP address. Go. So this is my controller, the black cable, this one. I remove it, the ping will start failing. So both of the DOS console shows a failure into ping, and I'm going to move it to port 2, which is the access port that I configured earlier for VLAN 100. So in here you can see that the new IP has taken hold for the controller. I can ping 192.168.100.100 in here. So I'll control break, and this one will not load anymore. There you go. So I'm going to open a new tab, 68.100.100, advanced, proceed. You can see here I'm going to log in, and you can see my password. Click remember me, click home, click devices. So you will see something similar to this, because when I remove the cable, there is a heartbeat missed. There you go. The access point finally found the controller on its new IP address. It says connected. There you go. AS02 has found the controller. There you go. So all the switches has found the controller on its new IP address. However, the gateway will not be able to find the controller, and it will remain heartbeat missed, and later on it will show as disconnected. The only way for me to be able to tell the gateway that the controller has changed the IP address is through the Umada Discovery utility. So let me show you how it works. And let me show you the error that I get when using the latest Umada Discovery utility. So this is the error. It failed to start because of the port is already in use. I'm going to use the version 5.1.1. This time you can see that it has launched and it immediately found the gateway. For Umada Discovery utility to work, you need to make sure that your PC using the ODU needs to be on the same network as the device that you are adapting. So I'll just click select all and then click batch setting. This one you need to put the IP address of your controller. So 192.168.100.100, and this is the most important part, the admin and password 1 plus. Okay, click apply, and it says here adapting. Once it says successful, then all we have to do is wait on the controller to be able to adapt the device. So it says here settings succeeded. I need to click cancel, and I don't need Umada Discovery utility anymore. So let me go to the Umada console. In here you can actually see its provisioning. The gateway already found the controller, and there you go, connected. So now what I'm going to show is how to adapt a new device. If you're looking at the mini screen, so I just removed the power to the SG2008 switch and power it up. And since this port is now freed up, now I'm going to plug the SG2008 here. And once it boots up, it needs to find the controller. I would like to also demonstrate that even if you reboot the device, that it will also still find the controller in its new IP address. Let me do that. Reboot. Confirm. Once the AS01 switch has rebooted, the fallback IP address that I have set earlier has taken effect, and it's now showing 192.168.100.101. There you go, it shows pending. As you can see, the IP address of the new Umada device is still using the system VLAN IP, and that's okay. I'm just going to adapt this one. So I click the adapt button in here, provisioning, and it's now connected. So let me just change the name, AS03-SG2008. So this switch is still in the system VLAN 1, and we would like to move that to the new management VLAN. It's the same process. So click the device, config, VLAN interface, edit the VLAN 100, enable the management VLAN in here. I'll set the fallback IP 100-103, 100-103, and fallback gateway is 192.168.100.1, and I'll click apply, click got it, and I'm just going to wait for it to come back. There you go, provisioning, and there you go. So from here on, once you have all your network devices set up and running on the new management VLAN, for additional security, you can shut down VLAN 1 on all of these network devices. So after configuring your management VLAN, you can easily create an ACL to prevent other networks from accessing your management VLAN. So that will be in the future episode. And that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something from this video. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you don't like this video, please give it a dislike. But do let me know what you dislike so that I can make those changes in the future videos. Thank you again for watching my videos. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and bye-bye.